Hello, my name's Martin Highwood. I live with muscular dystrophy and I work for Muscular Dystrophy UK. Today we have the privilege of sitting down with one of the most versatile actors in the industry, Ralph Ineson. With a career that spans across the worlds of film, television, radio and video games, Ralph has left a significant mark in the entertainment landscape. His distinctive voice and commanding presence have made him a sought-after talent, while his dedication to charitable endeavours, notably as ambassador for Muscular Dystrophy UK, showcases his commitment to making a positive impact beyond the screen. Please welcome Ralph. You've been a part of some highly anticipated video games, Ralph, like Diablo IV and Final Fantasy XVI and Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Can you describe the unique challenges and rewards of voice acting in the gaming industry compared to traditional film or TV roles?
You're basically aiming for the same thing, just the circumstances surrounding it are very different. You know, when you're doing video game acting, usually on your own, in a booth with an engineer on the other side of the glass and people on screens, sometimes in the same city as you, sometimes in LA. So it's quite solo compared to acting normally with other actors and big crew and everything. When you're doing a video game, you're kind of on your own for 3 or 4 hour sessions every 2 or 3 months. You're going to do it. So say the couple of games that you mentioned, they took 3 or 4 years to make. So I'd go in every 2 or 3 months and do a session, and then they'd add it, they'd reanimate stuff and work it all together. Whereas on a film, you might work for 12 weeks solidly and get the whole thing done in 12 weeks, 12-hour days, 5-6 days a week. So the workload is very different with them, but the aim is the same, essentially.
In Diablo IV, you play veteran of the Haradrim, Laura, 50 years after his role in the events of Diablo III. What can you tell us about your experience voicing this character and the role they play in the game's narrative?
Diablo and Lorath Nair, who I play, he's a wise old warrior monk who knows the world and knows the law very well. So that job was very much about narration and telling the story to the main character to inform their choices. So that was quite a straightforward voiceover job in a sense. A lot of the time I'd be sitting down with the cans on and the mic. It didn't involve a lot of the other elements of voice acting that I'll go into with the other games. But Diablo was a great job to do because of the quality of the writing, the depth of the lore, and everything. It was fascinating. I loved it.
And your role in Final Fantasy XVI as Cid has generated significant excitement amongst fans. What can you reveal about his character and your experience on working on the Final Fantasy project?
Yeah, I had no real idea of the scale of Final Fantasy when I got involved in it. Thankfully, Ben Starr, who plays Clive Rosfield, the central character in it, he's a big fan.
Right,
So,
yeah.
When we were working, he could be explaining to me the intricacies of the world. And that was the thing about that job, is that they put us in the booth together, which is very rare to
Right.
do that, to get the two actors in. So me and Ben got a real rapport going. And I think that comes through in the game. A lot of people have commented about the game that there's a real rapport between the two characters. That we got just being in a room with another actor, it just adds an extra frisson, which makes it that much better. So the unusual thing about Final Fantasy was being in the booth with another actor, which really helped. And also with Final Fantasy, we had head cams, so there's not facial capture, so they were capturing your facial expressions as you say in the line. You have these terribly uncomfortable, it's like a cycling helmet with 2 long bars and a little camera there with a really bright light that's shining in your face. Really uncomfortable. And so I first used them on Black Flag, which was more than 10 years ago. And when I came back to do Final Fantasy, and this time they got them out, I went, surely in 10 years they've found a way to make these things comfortable. No,
Still the same
I defy any man or woman to wear one of those for 2 hours and not get a headache.
Yeah.
It's just punch your skull and a bright white light in your eyes. You know, after a couple of hours, you're just like, oh.
A great game though, Ralph. And so in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, my favourite, you're portrayed Charles Vane. And now, how did you prepare for that historical character? And what intrigued you most about that particular role? Because it is a fantastic role, by the way.
Yeah, it was great. I became good friends before we started with Darby McKevitt, who's written a lot of the Assassin's Creed games. And his historical knowledge and research is kind of second to none. So he was sending me all sorts of stuff about the character and the history of these ones, and yeah, I kind of fell in love with Charles Vane because he really was the craziest of them all. So he was a real fun character to play, completely out of his mind, and would start a fight in an empty room.
Yeah, sweary, bad attitude.
So it was a lot of fun, but that was a great job to do because we did it full mocap. So we got flown out, I think 1 week a month for about 4 months to Montreal, to the Ubisoft studios they have there, with 450 motion capture cameras around a studio about the size of a badminton court. So in there, you're in the full body suit with the dots on and the head cam and everything, but you're there acting the scenes with other actors, not into mics or anything. You're there, and even though you're in these weird things, actors make believe, we pretend, and suddenly you feel that in your head, and it was like being on stage with Mark Bonner and really good actors that we were doing it with, and we were all like, this is actually really good. We thought it would be technically restrictive and really quite boring, but it wasn't actually. It was brilliant fun to do acting wise. Really let yourself go to it. You didn't have to hit marks or hit cameras. Everything you do is caught by the 450 cameras or whatever there are around the room. So that was a really fascinating job to do, and unfortunately they don't do that as much anymore, apparently. I presume it's to do with cost. But they've taken the motion capture and a lot of the facial capture, the stuff out of video game acting, and I think it suffered for it. I think with the technology we have now, if you were to just invest a little bit more in getting good actors in good technology that we have, you could take video game acting beyond what was in Black Flag and stuff. But I don't think it's progressed massively from those days, when in 10 years it should have done really.
Your filmography includes a wide range of well-known film franchises like The Witch, Star Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ready Player One, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and the UK series of The Office. Can you share a favourite memory or experience from working on any of those iconic franchises?
I think there's kind of so many, in a way. I was 7 years old in 1977 when the first Star Wars came out and was utterly obsessed as a kid. So getting to play a First Order officer being followed around by my own black BB-8 droid and troop of 25 stormtroopers behind me, that was kind of like, this feels pretty cool. So that was a great moment. And also, especially because he passed away recently, Michael Gambon, I got to work with him when he was doing the Harry Potter series, and I was kind of the closest actor to him in his huge death scene at the top of the astronomy tower. So in these big scenes, big setups in these big budget movies, they take forever to film. So it took about a week and a half to film this sequence. So it was a lot of standing around waiting for lights to be changed, cameras to move. So Michael was just the best storyteller I've ever met, and he's world renowned for it. And he was just telling me wonderful stories all the time, jokes. But I'd realised after a while they'd be telling me like 3 or 4 jokes consecutively. He'd tell me one, which was just in that minute break we'd got in between those 2 shots, and that would be funny. But he'd also add a little bit on the day's joke, and there'd be a joke that would last all day. Right. And he'd tell me the punchline and rap at the end of the day. He also had one which lasted the whole 1.5 weeks that he kept jibbing into and telling me a little bit more. And it basically goes, this took him a week and a half to tell, and I can tell it in 15 seconds. Plastic surgeon in Roehampton comes home from work, kisses his wife on the cheek, sits in front of the fire with his paper, and melts. That's the gag. Plastic surgeon melts. But over a week and a half, he told me which college at Cambridge the guy had gone to, what his relationship with his brother was, all the way through. It's an incredibly detailed story to tell this really rubbish gag. And at the end of the week and a half, me and Daniel, because he'd been telling it to me and Daniel Radcliffe, at the end we were both like, oh, sod off. We've been waiting a week and a half for that.
That's crazy.
So,
that's crazy.
May he rest in peace. He was a wonderful, wonderful man.
That's really, really good to hear. That's awesome. Now, Muscular Dystrophy UK Ambassador. Can you tell us how you got involved with Muscular Dystrophy UK and what inspired you to become an ambassador of the charity, for which we are extremely grateful?
Well, I first came across Muscular Dystrophy and the charity through yourself, Martin. We We got to know each other through our love of the greatest football club in the world. Notice I said football club, not football team, because we're certainly not the best football team in the world, but Leeds United, the greatest football club in the world. We spoke over social media and Twitter, all about that, and the usual terrible times we're having. And then I think the first thing I did was I did some voiceovers for some promo films that you were doing at the start. And yeah, I just gradually got a bit more involved with yours, watching Martin and watching the disease progress with him is heartbreaking, but also very inspirational to watch the way Martin and his family have dealt with it. So yeah, it's driven me to get involved the only way I can. We had a great time a few years ago when we did your Miles for Muscles campaign, and Martin walked a mile to or from or around various sports stadiums in the UK, and I live just near the All England Lawn Tennis Club in Wimbledon. So I did the laziest version of this by walking from my pub to the All England Lawn Tennis Club and then back to the pub, which was a mile. So me, Martin, his wife and my dogs did that, and yeah, I've been trying to chip in where I can ever since.
Well, you filled in on some of the questions I was going to say about the initiatives or specific projects you've been involved in, and we, like I said, we were extremely grateful that you got involved with the Move a Mile for Muscles campaign and did the voiceovers for us. You know, it's your voice is extremely distinctive, and it's a favour that I don't think I'll ever be able to return. Again, sharing the memorable moment. I remember when we were walking the dogs to Wimbledon, and we were walking you nearly got to the tennis club, and from different sides of the street we could hear people shouting Finchy, and you didn't even flinch, because you obviously hear people calling you that name and shouting you across the street all the time. But myself and my wife Michelle were saying, what was that? Who was that? And it was all aimed at you. But I really appreciate your support on that walk, and also, you know, the things that you're doing for us going forward. It's really greatly appreciated. Ralph, it's great to see your involvement with Muscular Dystrophy UK and CEX's collaboration to help raise funds for the charity. As you may know, you can trade in unwanted games and tech into CEX to donate some or all of its value to Muscular Dystrophy UK, with CEX adding an extra 10% on top if you donate the full amount. Do you have any old tech lying around your house that could be turned into funds for those living with muscle wasting and weakening conditions for Muscular Dystrophy UK? Is there an old Atari under the stairs or a Vectrex in the loft?
Well, I think I've probably got a couple of older model iPads that can get traded in, and the constantly changing wires for Apple products. So I've got a lot of adapters and things that could bring a bit in as well. So we'll have a look.
Excellent. And is there anything you'd like to add or anything you'd like to say to our fantastic CEX customers that support Muscular Dystrophy UK?
Well, sign up for It's Game On, Muscular Dystrophy's gaming marathon. Play video games for 12, 6 or 24 hours and set up a fundraising page to get sponsored. Help change the future for muscle wasting conditions. And if you've got anything lying around the house, any old games, any tech at all, have a look in the cupboards and get it down to CEX. Get some money and help Muscular Dystrophy.